Hello YouTube Pipers, it's Double O Rick here. I have my Savinelli Bing's Favorite and I'm loading it with Captain Black's Royal. I really enjoy poking my nose into that jar. Smells so good. Almost good enough to eat. I don't know what Hunter's doing in there, but he sounds like he's up to something. Well, we have another gorgeous day out there. A little bit warmer today than it was yesterday. And as I was walking around the yard earlier, there are a lot of acorns on the grass. A lot more than yesterday, so maybe we'll have a cooler winter. That would be nice, provided my dad's thoughts on that are accurate. I'm not talking much, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this thing lit. Feels like that filter I put in there I must have removed it. I was looking through the pipes I had, the ones I got from eBay that time, and this particular one had a stem that didn't fit, so I tossed it. I found one that would fit, but it'll only fit the entrance. It doesn't fit the diamond shape. But I thought I'd try it. It looks like it hadn't been used at all. It's all just wood. And it's got to be one of those bones. What do you call them? I can't remember the first name that goes with it, but they're called bones. Like this one I got. But I'll try that with that stem that's definitely not meant for this, but at least it fits and it ought to carry smoke. And I'll try that next time. I hope everybody's doing okay. I usually go to the store on Wednesdays because Wednesdays here are Geezer Day, where you get a 5% discount. But yesterday, I was sitting in front of the computer. I had gotten up early. I'd been up 3 times with Hunter. And it was about 7:30. I planned to head up to the grocery store about 8:30. So I figured, pardon, I'd sit and watch a couple of YouTubers. Well, I just fell asleep. Woke up at 10:30. Still in the chair. Drool coming out of my mouth. I was just out like a light. So I decided not to go to the grocery store yesterday and went today. I didn't get my 5%, but I still got some groceries. Didn't get a whole lot. I think it was a little over $100. It's amazing what it's costing now. What can you do? I don't know. This Captain Black Royal tastes pretty good. I like it about as much as I do my Velvet and my Carter Hall. I notice I'm up to 450 subscribers. If I ever get to 500, I'll do another one of those gauze. I'll still do a gift certificate, but this time it'll be a $50 gift certificate. That way somebody can get what they want through the mail. Since there are restrictions that I'm not quite sure of. Anyway, I was thinking about Clyde. I think I told you about me snapping my uncle's fencing foil, but I don't think I had the full story behind it. Now me, I was a big Robin Hood fan. I had seen the movie Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, and I just loved that movie. And always being reminded that I was English, I loved it even more, because here was a real champion of the people, according to the legend. Robbed from the rich, gave to the poor. Well, in my mind, I was fighting for my life with the Sheriff of Nottingham. And I was clickety-clacking swords with him up here and in motion. And after about 5 minutes, Clyde came in and said, "What in the world are you doing? You're making all kinds of racket in here." I said, "I'm fighting for my life, the Sheriff of Nottingham. If you hadn't have come in, I could have gotten him." He said, "Are you Robin Hood again?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I like Robin Hood." He said, "Why don't you want to be a pirate? Remember we saw Treasure Island?" And he was right. The week before, my mother had taken the two of us into town to the theater. And we saw Treasure Island. And I liked Treasure Island okay, but Robin Hood was still my hero. I said, "Yeah, that was okay, but Robin Hood, I like Robin Hood better." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because he's English." And he said, "Well, so was Long John Silver. Don't you remember his accent? He was saying, 'Arr, ahoy, mateys,' and 'a bottle of rum.' Don't you remember all that?" I said, yeah, I guess you're right about that. He said, look over here. He said, look at that wall. See that pirate? And I think I had told you that my uncle, his brother Charles, had drawn 3 pictures up on his wall in pencil. One was an Indian coming charging right at you on a pony with an arrow pulled back, full pull, pointed straight at you. And next to that was a pirate in full garb, tricorn hat, eye patch, and saber in his hand. Not saber, it was, what do you call them, cutlass in his hand. And next to him was a woman pirate. She had on a bandana, black hair flowing from that bandana. Beautiful face. He could draw women. And she had on a peasant blouse. And Clyde had informed me just recently what bosoms were. And I was entranced with that after he said it. And I kept looking at her. He said, what's the matter with you? I said, nothing. Why? I said, she's a damsel in distress. We got to save her. And he looked at me kind of quizzically. And then he got right into it and said, aye, matey, we've got to do that. And he jumped up on the bed, put his hand on the post on the bed, because they had a high post bed. And he was leaning out like he was looking off the poop deck into the far horizon. And I could just see salt spray coming up and hitting him in the face. I was getting right into it then. I said, yeah, we got to save her. He said, well, I think she's on that ship on the horizon. Go get our weapons, our cutlasses. I said, we don't have any cutlasses. He said, sure we do, Shmee. I said, don't call me Shmee. That was Captain Hook's sidekick in Peter Pan. That was a cartoon. I don't want to be a cartoon. He said, all right, matey. Get our weapons. I said, hey, do you think we could use Uncle Charles's fencing foils? And he looked at me and said, I don't know. He doesn't want us messing with those. I said, we won't know. We won't hurt him. We're just going to play. I mean, it's not like we could do anything to damage him. He thought for a second. He said, okay, go get them. So I ran to the closet and I got 2 of them. I ran over and handed him one and shoved the other one down the loop in my pants as if it were a scabbard. And it lay there like a sword. Well, it was a sword, but it was like you see in the movies. And he said, all right, mateys, get ready. The ship's coming up. We've got to grapple them over. I said, I don't want to be in the sea. I want to be up on the poop deck with you. He said, this is where the captain stays. You're on the gunwale. I said, okay, as long as I'm not in the sea. He said, get ready. Excuse me. He said, get that grappling hook and starts twirling it so we can bring that ship over and board her. So I was doing this number, feeling the weight of that grapple. And he said, throw it. And I threw, and I pulled with all my might. And we got the ship side by side, and we jumped over into the deck of the other ship. Now Clyde had to take on the roll of the other ship members. And as I jumped over and hit the deck, I tried to pull my sword out of my loop, but the sword was longer than my arm, so I had to grab it and pull it out, toss it up and grab it. And I said, "On guard." And he said the same thing, and we started clanging our swords against each other. And I was trying to find an opening to run him through, and I went for him, and he stepped aside and hit it with his sword, clang, making that sound that just gave it authenticity. And he went for me, and I did the same. I went to the side and hit his sword to deflect it. And again, I went for him, and I slashed down, and I missed the sword and hit him across the arm. He went, "Ow, the sword, dummy, the sword, not me." I said, "Sorry, I won't do it again." So anyway, we would clang, clang, as swords make when they slide up and down on each other. And I kept looking for the right place, and I saw it. Because he was looking at his arm that had a red welt on it. And I went for him. Because we had been dancing around each other. And I was facing him, and his back was to the bed. Well, I went for his midsection with my sword. They all had these tips on them because that's because all fencing equipment does. So anyway, I went for him, and I put all my weight behind it, and he dodged, and my sword hit the bed. And with all my weight going behind it, it bent, and I thought, that's okay. That's just something it does. And then it went snap. And I raised up my sword that was about 4 inches shorter, that didn't have the tip on the end because it was no longer a full-length sword. And Clyde, eyes went like this, and he looked at that sword, and he looked at me, and he looked at that sword again. He looked at the sword in his hand, threw it, and it went under the bed. And he just took off to the front room, grabbed a comic book and started reading. And about that time, my grandmother came in the back door, carrying groceries. Well, as soon as Clyde realized that, he ran outside and started unloading the car to bring in groceries too. I still had that sword in my hand, and I walked up to say hello to my grandmother. And she said, "Ricky, what's that?" I said, "It's a sword." She said, Is that Charles's sword?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." About that time, Clyde came in carrying a bag. He had that gleam in his eye and that smile. You could see his teeth. And he said, "Ricky, what did you do?" And my grandmother said, "What do you mean, Clyde? What did he do?" He said, "That sword, that's not the real length of the sword. That's broken." And my grandmother said, "You mean he broke your brother's sword?" Says, "It looks like it, Mama." And he looked at me and grinned. And my grandmother said, "Let me hold that, Ricky." So I gave it to her. She said, "Oh, Clyde, what am I going to tell your brother?" He said, "I don't know, Mama." And she said, "Ricky, Why in the world did you have to go and play with this? Clyde knows better to do that. Seems like you ought to learn something from Clyde sometimes. Clyde says, well, I didn't know what was going on, Mama. I heard some noise. I was too busy reading my comic book. She said, oh, Ricky, what am I going to do with you? If you'd only be more like Clyde and not mess with your uncle's things. These aren't toys, you know. She said, go up there and sit on the couch. Let me see what I can do about this. So I went up to their front room. Clyde followed her to the bedroom and found the other half of it and said, oh, I don't know what he did, Mama, but here's the other half. She was saying, well, am I going to tell your brother, you know, these are his prized possessions. I said, I don't know, Mama. She said, can't you watch him a little closer? He said, I'll try to next time, Mama. And he came into the front room, and I was reading my Classics Illustrated Robin Hood, and he picked up a Black Hawk comic, looked at me and grinned with that twinkle in his eye, and we both sat back and read our comic books. My Uncle Charles was not a happy man when he heard about that. I miss my Uncle Clyde, I'll tell you what. Oh, what a character. Well, for me, that was a fun memory. Wasn't fun at the time because I caught the brunt of it, as usual. But looking back on it, I wouldn't have traded that memory for anything. I hope you guys are doing okay. You know, I hope you have fond memories of your past. And I hope you had somebody in your life, a brother or something, that you were able to take the hard times for him. In other words, I guess I hope y'all had somebody like an Uncle Clyde. Take care of yourselves. I enjoyed telling that. I hope y'all enjoyed hearing it. Take care. God bless you until the next time. Bye-bye.